Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King, and sorry about yesterday. I was just having a downright awful day. Yeah, really awful. But I was able to get my affairs in order, and yes, I'm back guys. With a new series to entice you all the way guys. What if Godlike Naruto was awakened by Kushina? Part 1 guys. You will understand soon in a few minutes as you drift into this new series guys, trust me. It's gonna be awesome. As you can see the title, Godlike Naruto. So yeah, just sit back, relax, and yeah, enjoy. And if you're new, Anime King, if this is the first time you're hearing of me, I just want to say welcome. It's up to you if you want to subscribe or not, but if you enjoy, just go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the family. I will really appreciate you being here, and also comment down below and tell me if you're new, so I can welcome you personally guys. So yeah, please your foot up, kick back, relax, and yeah, why don't we just jump into this new episode? Start the intro guys! A storm was brewing at the moment. Pitch black clouds were in the sky as they enveloped almost everywhere. Thunder was incredibly loud. Lightning struck down. It was like the heavens itself was crying. A massive storm was brewing as terrible winds whipped past the land. A long time ago, a time before the era of shinobis, when mankind was still in its infancy, among these humans lived one man that stood out from majority, bearing a staff and some ropes that made him look like some kind of priest. A strange man who had purple, ripple eyes that allowed him to do all kind of incredible things. Thus, the story began. At the moment though, there was a red blur, moving so fast, moving from tree to tree, leaping. Behind said red blur was a lot of other blurs, trying to catch it, weaving over the trees, dashing through the river. The blur moved as fast as possible could go, with the other blurs chasing it. The storm above got more harsher and more brutal. Back with said man. This man was said to be the father of humans, master of elements, wielder of power that not any mortal could understand. It was this man that fought the apocalyptic monster that possessed 10 tails, the harbinger of death and destruction. Its moniker was a Jobe. That was a title bestowed upon it. It was said that the man fought the beast and defeated it, but there was no way of completely removing it from existence. So he had to seal it inside himself, and he became what is known as the first Jinjulki. Back with the other man, the black blurs were cursing, but their curse could not be heard over the storm as they chased after the small red blur. The red blur leaped over a small ravine before dashing through the trees. This red blur was a girl, as she was barely out of her teens, as she had an excellent agility and speed, judging by the pace that she was going. But her face looked exhausted, as her long red hair was being dampened down by the onslaught of rain that came down. Her clothing was disheveled and torn, and they were also soaked to the bone. Back to the man. It said that he made a choice that would ever change history. He bestowed the title of his successor upon his youngest son, and his eldest became angry, wrathful, rage. It consumed him. But the man knew that he could not die because the beast would once again roam if he died. So he used his power to split the beast into 9 pieces and send them all across the continent. He had sealed the body of the Jubi into the sky, which is now known as today as the moon. Yes, he sealed the body away inside the moon. That man came to be known as the Sage of Six Paths, and his decision that day would start a long family feud between his 2 sons that fought after his death, and it went down through the centuries. Meanwhile, the young redhead glanced over her shoulders. She thought that she lost her pursuers. As she looked around for the nearest location that she could hide out for a while. As she saw a small entrance, she peered through the rain. It was so much that she could barely see, but she saw it over there. So she rushed and leaped right through, not even focusing that it was kind of a temple, covered by green moss and veins. Soon several black blurs landed right in the entrance. They looked at each other before they flashed in as well, going after her. Back to the Sage of Six Paths. Many knew him as the man that took down the massive Jubi. But what many did not know on that night was, before the Sage of Six Paths had faced the Jubi had came in contact with a small little village that was up the mountainside, while ravaging the countryside. Its destructive attacks had decimated everything around, and it would have obliterated the mountainside if someone had not stopped it. Legends speak that before the Jubi could make contact with that part of the mountain, something had hit it so hard that the Jubi had screamed out in pain that shook the lands before its body was sent sailing by whatever had slammed into it. Back with the redhead girl. Upon entering the cave, she did not stop her running. She kept on glancing over her shoulder as she heard thuds. Thuds of footsteps following her as she moved faster. Despite her body being exhausted, she didn't know where she was going because the place was pitch black. She could only clench her eyes as she moved through the darkness. As the place was so dark, she smack dab right into a wall. She groaned in pain as she pressed her hands forward, but the wall was solid. The ground beneath her then shifted. As she looked down as she fell, she winced in pain as she hit the cold hard ground. That hurt, she said to herself as she gazed around her to where she had landed. Before, the place was dark and she couldn't see anything. But now, everything was different. First of all, there was light. Lit torches hang on the wall and from the ceilings and the stone pillars, thus allowing her to see the extravagant tomb that she was in. It was an old tomb. So surprised, she forgot the trouble that she was in. As she glanced around in wonder, as she got to her feet and walked, she saw strange markings that she has never seen before. She had no idea what they were. She could not translate them. And strange images carved into the wall. Back with the time of the Jubi. While the Jubi was on his rampage, he did not know that in that unassuming mountain top housed the clan of Oda. And that is where the Jubi had met its match. Because it was the heir of the Oda clan that had hurled the Jubi off the mountain. This was never recorded in history, but the heir had severely beaten the Jubi so badly, it was forced to retreat, moving towards the Sage of Six Paths territory. To this day, not many is known of this battle, or how the heir was able to beat the Jubi. But their battle was destructive, leaving a feel of pure destruction and chaos. But the man had severely weakened and beaten the Jubi. It was this reason why the sage was able to seal it, all because of one man. And after that, he was just gone. Back to the young redhead. She came to a stop as she stopped at a podium. She didn't know what it was. As she looked closer, though, it seemed to be a battle, with different sections, different scenes. Yet the one thing that stood out was a giant, 10-tailed monster, with a man face knit, with a blade. The markings around the blade looked like it was consuming flames. She felt a small pull, she didn't know why, but her hand subconsciously came up as she touched the figure. And it made her smile. "Hey, I think she's down here," she jumped as she turned to see her pursuers. She tried to hide behind the podium and think of a way to avoid them. Yet it did not work. "Found her!" She looked up as one of them grabbed her by the hair and pulled her from behind the podium. "You stupid bitch. How could you do that to us?" As the lighting showed their skin color, it was a bit darker, and they all had white hair. Their headbands wrapped around their forehead, showing that they were from Kumo. She was thrown down to the ground as she grunted in pain, but her arms were quickly pulled above her. The next thing she knew, the front of her shirt was grabbed. "We'll teach you to mind your manners better, bitch, because very soon you'll be pumping out children for Kumo future. But I don't see why we can't just get you ready for what is to come, shall we, boys?" as the rest of the men start to laugh as they inch closer to her. Tears gather in her eyes as she realized what they were going to do. She screamed when the man holding her clothing ripped off her vest. As he started to cut the shirt from the bottom with the kunai, she could do nothing as the shirt was cut. As the tears started to pool down from her eyes, her chest was wrapped in bandages. As she cried, as she pleaded to anyone, her tears fall on the podium. "Someone, help me," she begged. The shinobi grabbed her chin. "No one's gonna help you, bitch," he said. "So just loosen up and enjoy it." He smacked her as her head turned to the side. Her eyes looked towards the podium. She knew that no one was out here to hear her or help her, but she just prayed that it would work. She closed her eyes tightly. It was then a cracking sound could be heard. The red-haired Kushina Uzumaki heard it. As the place started to rumble, the whole place started to shake violently. The torches started to blaze. The fire intensified. It was then that the podium started to rise. Another section coming up. As something came up, the Kumo ninja's eyes widened. It was a throne. A perfect golden throne that was crafted by an elegant design that was fit for a noble or a king. The armrest was two dragon heads that was curled up. The wings of the dragon was behind the throne that spread. They were about 3 feet in length. There was an emblem of a flame right on top of the throne that was crafted perfectly. The design was just amazing, but that is not what caught their attention. What caught their attention was a man. As he sat in said throne, one of the arm on the armrest, while the other one held up his face. His eyes were closed, as his chest rose and dropped to show that he was asleep. His clothing was rather strange. One could say that he looked like some sort of priest. He was wearing a white and red kimono with strange markings on it, but it looked like someone of royal birth. Beneath it, he had on hakama pants. He was wearing some flat-pointed high boots. On his shoulder coming down was a sash with a strange design of a golden bird. There was also a black sash around his waist with flame-like patterns around it. His skin was a unique tan. He had long, blonde hair that reached his back with 2 bangs covering his face. He was rather handsome. Kushina hope started her eyes. Seeing this man here, she didn't know who he was, but she saw his finger twitch. The shinobi is all tense, as his other finger twitched as well. It was then that he released a sigh. His eyes then slowly opened up. They were azure, bright azure. Look in his eyes. You can just tell that he had untold amount of experience, and they also void any innocence. He blinked 3 times before his eyes scanned the tomb. It was then that it fell upon the people in front of him. His eyes became so cold, soulless, as he looked at the person that fell under his gaze. The 4 Kumo ninjas felt chills went down their spine. He was looking at them with those cold, unblinking eyes. It was then that he rose. He rose off his throne and started to step down the small podium. I imagined to find myself in an empty tomb when I awakened, but to find myself before 4 men who's about to commit the greatest act of defile right in my temple. That will not be forgiven. It cannot be forgiven. His tone was steady, but yet there was an underlying tone to it. A feeling of dread that swallowed the 4 men that were standing there. Bones not used in ages popped and cracked as he stood to his feet fully, showing that his height was rather impressive. He stood at 6 feet 3 inches. As his long hair fell past his waist, he turned towards the traumatized girl. His gaze then turned towards the 4 men. He then raised his hand. "Defilers of my temple, perish," he said. One of the 4 composed himself as he looked towards this deranged man, whoever he was. "And who are you to tell us what to do, freak? Why don't you come down here?" And the man never got to finish, as the blonde man seemed to just materialize in front of him and placed 2 fingers on his forehead. "Did I give a worm as you such permission to speak?" "No, I did not. I said defiler should perish." He then drove his 2 fingers forward as it pierced right through the man's skull like it was tissue paper. "Now, be gone from sight." The man started to scream as smoke came from his nose, his eyes and ears. As the man pulled back his finger, the man dropped and screamed on the ground. One of the other Kumo ninjas shouted, "What did you do to Hiroru?" The man's skin turned blood red as he snapped his gaze up to the sky, and what the Kumo ninja saw shocked them. His eyes started to melt, his tongue started to melt, his teeth started to melt. His entire head then caught on flames. His hair burned away, the skin melting off completely. The man reached out, praying for one of them to help him, as he was just an empty eye socket, open mouth scream. But nothing came out, he was already dead. As the fire swallowed his body whole, there was nothing left, not even ash. His body was just consumed into nothing. It was just gone. Now, for you three. The three Kumo ninjas turned as their gaze met with the man. A look of fear on their face. One of the Kumo ninjas stabbed himself in the knee with a kunai. His body was not moving, but the pain allowed him to break free from those gaze. He then started to flash the hand sign. "Take this, you freak!" Lightning release. Kaminari. A spear of lightning shot right towards the blonde man. The attack slammed into the blonde, creating a miniature explosion inside the tomb. The tomb held up perfectly. The other two Kumo ninjas were broken from their paralyzed state, no longer looking into his eyes, as they looked to see if the man that killed their teammate was dead. But to their absolute shock, there he stood unfazed, undeterred, unscratched, unharmed. Nothing was wrong with him despite the attack hitting him head on. It was then that he just dematerialized, like he wasn't there anymore. But they just saw him a second ago. The shinobi that sent the lightning attack found his face grabbed. He was shocked, as an iron claw seemed to just grip his face. He tried to pry the man's hand off, but he could not. As he tried, he struggled. He cried out, "Who are you?" "Nothing you shall concern yourself with, defiler. Now remove yourself from my sight." He then plunged his other hand into the man's chest. The man screamed out, before the blonde ripped something out. As a heart beat, the heart was pulsating in his arm, before it slowly started to slow down. The man's eyes were wide, as the blonde shoved the heart down his throat and released him. He then brought his foot up and brought it back down. The man's head was turned into minced meat as the blonde crushed it under his heel. He turned to the last two. There was no more fight in them, just pure despair, as they realized they were dead. This monster had no mercy, and he was too powerful. If a simple gaze could cause him to freeze up, how could they fight something like that? "You two, be gone from my sight. Become food for the maggots in the soil." He then appeared behind the third one. The man never got time to turn, as he felt the hand burst through him. His spinal cord was grabbed, before it was torn clean out, as he collapsed face first. The last one was trying to crawl away, as in front of his pants was soaked as he had peed himself. He brought his face down to the ground even where his pee was, as he begged, "Please, please spare me. I have a family. Don't kill me," he begged. Once a proud Kumo shinobi now begging for his life, pleading. Defilers deserve no such mercy, especially those that beg and plead like a coward. You stain my temple with your disgusting bodily fluids. Now, be gone! With a mere wave of his hand, a fireball appeared as he tossed it. The man screamed as the thing enveloped his entire being, burned away his soil, everything, erased him from the temple. He then proceeded to burn the other bodies. He then turned towards the young girl. Her eyes were puffy as she looked at him. There was no fear in her eyes, just awe, shock, admiration, and so much more. He raised his hand towards her face. "Sleep," he said, as she fell asleep. Time skip. The raging storm had came to a stop. The cracking of a campfire could be heard, illuminating the darkness around. The same red-headed girl was asleep. as she was covered by a cloak. As she snored softly, the very same blonde stood there as he looked into the campfire, as one of his hands held up his face, resting right at his cheek, as he wondered to himself, I wonder how much time has passed. Centuries? Millennia? It's been so long, yet it feels like it was only a day ago when I was fighting the 10 tails. He glanced towards the girl. Without thinking much, he had just took her with him as he had closed off his temple. Now here he was with a girl that was almost defiled in his temple. The reason why he was awake, and he thought, what to even do with her? Clearly she was too traumatized to speak earlier, but he still need to learn what has happened over the years. He heard a grumble as she turned to see her waking up. The cloak had covered her quite well. Sir? He turned his head as she was clenching onto the cloak. She was a bit afraid, remembering the incident earlier. He was surprised that she was alright already. Having an attempt like that almost made on her. She had strong willpower, it seems. He looked her way, but she did not turn away from his gaze, an act that he found great, because in his time most people could not even look him in the eyes. Perhaps there was more to this girl than he first thought. Yes, child, he said, as he placed wood in the flames as it popped and rose in intensity. Thank you for saving me, she said, as he looked at her for a full minute. Your gratitude is noted, but misplaced, young one. You stumbled upon my tomb, and had your voice not awoke me, you would have been defiled regardless. The way he said it made it sound a bit harsh, but the girl seemed to understand. She pulled her knees to her chest, as she glanced ever so often towards him. Oh, sorry. My name is Kushina Uzumaki. What's yours, she said. He was silent for a few seconds, until he finally spoke. Oda. My name. It's Naruto Oda. As she smiled at that, finally getting his name. Oda. That name sounds familiar to me, but I just can't remember, she thought. But Naruto, it means maelstrom. She smiled and wondered, why did she like that name so much? She then heard the sound of shuffling. As she watched as he got to his feet, she saw that he had another accessory. It was a weapon, a katana to be exact. The handle was purple, with an azure fire design, as there was a dragon curling around it. It was a bit longer than the average katana. The sheath was pure black. As she looked upon the blade, she could literally feel the amount of power oozing off it. She then saw him getting up to leave, as her voice quickly came out. Wait, where are you going? She asked, as Naruto turned her way. I am leaving. I no longer have a reason to stay here, and I must find out how long I've been sleeping. Her eyes widened. The trauma of the incident was still fresh in her mind, and being left alone once again caused fear to swell up inside of her. Plus, she didn't want to be away from this man that saved her from being taken by those men in the temple. Something about him made her want to be at his side. As she got it. Wait, if it's information you're looking for, then I know where you can go. He came to a stop in his step. And where would that be, he asked. She got up as she kept the cloak around her and walked towards him. Uzu. My home, she said. My clan, the Uzumaki's Hole. The most extensive library in the entire elemental nation. If anyone know anything that you're looking for, it would be in my clan, and I'm sure they will help you after helping me. He raised an eyebrow. And why is that, he said. Because I'm the heiress of the Uzumaki clan, and my father is the clan head of Uzu. He closed his eyes, and for the first time he cracked a small chuckle at the girl. Underhandedness. As he would have a way to get information and she would have a way to get back home safely. He had to admit, despite her young appearance, she was a very smart girl. Very well, I'll take you home, but you must have me meet with your father, agreed? You bet, Tabine, she said. He raised the eyebrow. Her face went beet red at her slip up. Tabine, he said. She simply slinked further into the cloak to hide her red face. Great. I just had to let it slip out in front of Naruto-kun, she thought. Wait, where did the kun come from? Time skip. 1 week later. She had to admit, after traveling with Naruto for 1 week, from the borders to the other, it had been a very changing and enlightened pace. Because for once she wasn't surrounded by bodyguards of Uzu, or those Konoha shinobis, who failed to protect her and let Kumo shinobis attack her. She was only walking side by side with Naruto, and it felt nice. She couldn't put it exactly into anything else, but it was nice to travel with the silent Naruto. His company was amazing. Despite him being older than her, he didn't treat her like a child, and simply played off her words like she did not know anything. He spoke to her normally. And also, despite him killing those Kumo ninjas, he's not showing that he was a bad person one bit. In fact, she felt safer with him than anyone else. As they were walking, some bandits threatened them. But in the blink of an eye, they all fell to the ground, with puncture wounds all over their body. They had even came across a few missing ends, but once again she was breathtaking by the speed and power he used to dispatch them all. As she was able to learn a few things. Little, but she did learn. One of those things was he carried this feeling of nobility, but he didn't act like one of those snobbish daimyos. He was kind. He was normal. He did not demand or forcefully ask for anything. But his very presence caused people to look at him in awe when he walked. Some had even lined up to see him pass and they thought he was some daimyo from a foreign country. But Kushina found it rather annoying. Almost all the women in the village that he came across always gave him these heart-struck looks and staring at him, and it annoyed her to no end. She didn't know why it did, but every time she saw a woman soon at the sight of him, it annoyed her. But the thing was, with all of his battles, she never once see him pull the katana out of the sheath. It wasn't his katana that he used to puncture the human body. It was his raw hand. He then used flames to burn off the blood. And his control over flame was so ridiculous that he never needed hand signs or say a word. He simply raised his hand and the flame appeared. It was honestly one of the coolest things that she has ever seen before. As they made their way towards the docks, once again everyone was looking at him with awe. As she rushed up to see the island, a distance away, her birth island. As she turned to see Naruto beside her, he looked toward the sea with an impassive face. "Tell me, Naruto-kun, what do you think of the ocean?" She had let it slip some time ago, but he never said anything about the suffix, so she kept on calling him Naruto-kun. He looked towards her. Before he turned back to the ocean, there was a look on his face, a rather strange one, that she couldn't really decipher. The ocean is vast and unpredictable, but it is what makes humans think of the greatest freedom, that is to go out at sea. That way they're never restricted by land, and they can feel true freedom, without laws or restriction to bind them. However, the same cannot be said for the polar opposite in the elemental cycle. Nevertheless, let's be going. As they made their way towards the ship, Naruto sat, his back leaned up against the wall, as his katana was between his legs. It was then that he turned as he saw something, a storm that was picking up in the horizon. He glanced as he saw the driver of the ship turn to get past the whirlpools. As Kushina reached out and took his hand, as they finally arrived, he felt his katana tremble as he gripped it tightly. Time skip. Those are gates. "And here we are," said Kushina, as she revealed her home in all of its glory. The buildings were high, with strange, unique whirlpool designs. Some of the roof did look like spiraling whirlpools. The gates themselves seemed to be made of the thickest and most durablest wood. The Uzumaki insignia was on the center of the gate, and inside of that was a yin-yang symbol, a symbol that connected both gates. "So what do you think?" said Kushina. "From what I've seen so far, it's quite an interesting village." As they walked towards the gates, "Halt!" 5 shinobis appeared in a swirling water, as they were armed to their teeth. Black shinobi sandals, black pants, a long sleeve t-shirt with a chain metal guard over it. They had wrist guards over their arms. The Uzumaki insignia was hatched into the metal that was firmly placed on their forehead. As Naruto noticed, all 5 had red hair. They were not the same shade, but all of them had red hair. It's probably a trademark for all Uzumakis to have red hair of some kind. The leader of the group tensed when he noticed Kushina at Naruto's side. "Kushina-sama, what are you doing here? We thought your father sent you off to Konoha by now. And who is that man with you?" "All will be explained soon, but you must take us to see my father," Kushina said in a serious tone. The leader nodded. "Very well. We shall have you both escorted to Uzukage-sama." But the man looked at Naruto with distrust. Naruto said nothing as they were led towards the gate. The gatekeepers went through hand signs before they placed their hands on the gate. The symbol, yin and yang, glow white and black, as there was a crisscross of seals, and the gate opened up. And Naruto was surprised when the gates opened up as he looked inside of the village. The village was built in the center of the island, with a giant wall surrounding the entire perimeter. However, there was a river in the center, with a number of bridges going over it. He and Kushina walked as several people were walking along, children playing and enjoying their day. As Naruto noticed their hair color, it seems indeed the entire village was the Uzumaki clan. There was a massive building in the center of the village, about 60 feet high, as there was a massive symbol of Uzu right on the front. All in all, it was very interesting to see how much things have changed since his time. "Oh Kami, look, it's Kushina-sama!" A villager shouted as other turned to look to see Kushina along with Naruto and the shinobis behind them. "Hooray, she's back!" One of them celebrated, followed by several others. "Hey, who's that man? Is he a daimyo?" Another one said, as the man eyed Naruto suspiciously, but the woman looked upon Naruto with a dreamy expression on her face. "He certainly looked like one. I mean, he's so handsome," she said, as several other women agreed. As Naruto felt something as Kushina inched a bit closer to him. As the villagers looked upon this with shock, he even saw some of the guards looking a bit surprised by Kushina as she held on to his hand. Honestly, Naruto did not know what's wrong with Kushina, but after traveling with the excitable redhead, he had gained a soft spot for her. He had no idea how long he's been asleep, but having Kushina as his company was one of the better things since waking up. Time skip, Uzukage Tower. Now once we open the door, you can go and see Uzusama. But remember to pay your respect, outsider, the leader of the group said. As Naruto did not respond, he simply gave the man a stoic look. The man grunted as he knocked on the door. "Come in," a voice said. The man stepped aside, allowing Kushina to step in, with Naruto beside her. As Naruto was shown the Uzukage that he heard about, he was wearing white and red robes, with the whirlpool design slit in the bottom. On his head was a Kage hat, with the Kage symbol on the front end. He took off his hat to show his long red hair. He had a rather pale complexion. Sharp brown eyes went towards the two. He had a red beard. "Miyuzumi," he said. "What are you doing here?" Kushina rushed over as she hugged the man. "Father," she said, as she started to cry. He glanced up towards the man, before he turned back towards his daughter. "Tell me, Miyuzumi, why are you crying? What happened? I thought I sent you to Konoha. And who is this man with you?" It was then that she started to explain. "I was on the envoy to Konoha when we were attacked by Kumo shinobis. I panicked when the Konoha shinobis abandoned me, and I was chased by the Kumo ninjas." "Wait, they abandoned you?" he said. She nodded. His face grew grim as she continued her story. A look on the man's face was like he was about to burst when he heard that his daughter was almost raped by the Kumo ninjas, but was saved by this man. Soon enough, Kushina had told him everything. He took several deep breaths as he placed a hand on her head. "Miyuzumi," he said, "go see to your mother and sister. I'm sure they'll be happy to see you back. We can speak again later, but first, let me talk to your friend privately here." Kushina worriedly looked towards Naruto, who simply gave her a nod as she nodded back. As she started to leave, but she stopped. She rushed forward and hugged Naruto from behind. "Thank you so much, Naruto-kun," she said. She spoke in the fabric of his clothing before she quickly turned and left. Naruto then turned his head back towards Uzukage, as the man was looking directly at him. The man then stepped from behind his desk. "My Miyuzumi may have not told me your name out of respect, but let me be the first to say." The man then kneeled as he planted his head on the ground. "Thank you for saving my daughter." As Naruto spoke for the first time since entering, "Get up. It's not right for a man your status to bow for me. Your daughter was just in the right place at the wrong time, and for this, she has awakened me. So if anything, I owe her my gratitude." "Now stand up, Uzukage-san," said Naruto, hearing the sincerity in the man's words. The Kage got to his feet. "That may be true, but you're possibly the only thing that has saved her from a life of agony and despair. For that you have my eternal gratitude, and that of the entire Uzumaki clan. Still, I find that she has grown very attached to you during your journey here." "Is it a bad thing?" Naruto asked, as the man merely chuckled. "Oh no, on the contrary, it's a good thing. Because I could see that she's very happy upon coming here with you. Happier than I've ever seen her, in fact, and that makes me happy. I thought sending her to Konoha to become the next Jinchuriki would be good for her, but it seems I can no longer trust our old century allies. So I have to count it as a blessing that she was returned to us unharmed. The man then turned towards the window. I have to wonder though, what is your name? What do you mean when you said you awakened? And for that as well, why have you come here? As he poured himself a cup of tea. My name is Naruto Oda. Crash! The teacup shattered when it hit the floor. As it fell from the Kage's hand, his hand started to tremble as he took over Naruto's entire form. Oh my kami. I never believed it. I always thought the Odas were a myth. As he looked over Naruto once again. Pardon, said Naruto. I apologize, it's just the Odas. I've been seen as a myth. But here you are standing before me. I thought the tablet given to us was just a host. But here you are standing in front of me. What do you know about tablet? What do you know of my clan, Uzukage-san? But just as the man was about to speak, boom! The Uzu stood up as he rushed right towards his window to see something destroying the forest. What is that? The door burst open. Uzukage-sama! Zuko, what's wrong? What's happening? The man said. We're being invaded by Kumo, Kiri, and the Hidden Stone, sir. Their combined forces have reached our defenses, and the Kiri fleet is about to sabotage our underwater system. As the Uzukage scowled, to think 3 of them would combine forces take us out. But how in the world has they bypassed our defenses? To get through to them is only top secret to Uzumaki. So how? As Naruto looked out, he narrowed his eyes as he saw the smoke getting closer. Uzu-san, worry about that later. Let us make a deal. I stop this invasion, you tell me all you know about my clan and what has happened over the past few centuries. As Naruto started to walk towards the door, the Uzukage looked at him in shock. Not that I would decline, but how in the world do you plan to stop the combined forces of 3 shinobi villages? As Naruto turned his gaze, because the world has not known the power of Oda until today, and they will learn the capability of Oda. Not just any Oda though. The heir of the Oda clan, said Naruto. You deal with the Kira forces in your waterways, and I'll deal with the main forces. Keep your man inside, and whatever you do, stay in your village. As he placed his palm on his katana as he started to walk out the door, the Uzukage stood there shocked before he slammed his hand on his decks. As seals spread out, code black. All available forces are to report to the underwater entrance. Jennings are to evacuate. The villagers still shelters. This is the order of your Uzukage. Now go! He snapped his finger as his personal guards appear. Go see to it that my family is kept safe. And then return, we shall lead the main forces to the water supply force. Uzu-sama, are you sure that is wise? To trust that outsider, one of them acts. If anything, I put my entire trust in that man. He saved my daughter, and the heir of the Uzumaki clan. And if what he said is true, then we shall experience the power of Oda at first hand. After all, who better to enter a battlefield than a man who is directly linked to the god of death itself? The shinobis were shocked when they heard that. Meanwhile, at the edge of the land, a ravaging storm came down as Naruto looked forward. He had already eviscerated hundreds. The first wave that came his way, that tried to enter on the land, they were nothing. What he was looking forward now was the ships. The place was blue, serene and calm, but now, the raging storm of power was raging towards Uzu. Hundreds of ships, driving their way forward. Men, shinobis, all flooded said ship. Naruto pulled his katana as the blade glistened. The ground beneath him lit up in flames. The sand beneath him started to melt into molten lava. A dark red aura gleamed from the blade itself. It's been too long, old friend. But first, let us deal with these children. But first, as he stabbed the blade into the ground, he then placed his hand outwards as it enveloped in flames. Bokushoki, he said. The blade that was stabbed in the ground created a line, as it was a bright line that swallowed around Uzu. Once it was finished, it was a red line that circled the entire village. Naruto then stepped over the line. The moment he stepped over it, red flames erupted and surrounded the entire village of Uzu, as it was protected by a massive barrier of flames. On the main line, everyone was shocked when they saw the phenomenon. Ships that were unlucky enough to hit the fire was incinerated within seconds. As Naruto stepped towards the water, his hair started to wave upwards. It seemed to be on fire. His piercing eyes looked towards the shinobis. As he clenched his blade, it got enveloped in dark flames. Now let us see what the sons and daughter of the Sage of Six Paths are capable of, he said. Meanwhile, the forces, fire. That's what they saw when they first started to invade. Pure, unending flames. They have never seen such amount of flames burst forward on the battlefield before. But when they saw the massive red flames swallow the island, they knew that something had gone terribly wrong. That is when they saw a single man walking forward. He was right on top of the water, moving towards them. Long, spiky golden hair that seemed to be on flames itself as it flew behind him. He looked like some daimyo, yet as he walked, unnerved, undisturbed by the amount of shinobis that was raining down on him. The calmness that he stepped with, the air of nobility. That is when he saw the blade. The blade was causing the water to boil around him as steam was rising. Who was this man? Why was he here? And better yet, how did he have so much power? The thoughts rushed through their mind as Naruto took a breath in before he released. How long has it been since I experienced your flames? Too long it seems. Nevertheless, let's get rid of the trash, he said. He then shifted his foot backwards before he gripped the katana and held it behind him. He was quiet, deadly quiet as the shinobis were approaching. Hitoshu, he said. Nadrian. And he was now behind countless numbers of ships. He was behind the second wave. As he started to walk once again, the shinobis were confused until, crack, screams could be heard. The entire front face of the ocean was sliced in half along with all the shinobis. It was like a giant blade that just descended from the heavens that they could not see, and they were sliced in half. Those that were not sliced was crushed by the massive amount of water that came back down, breaking their ships and their body. Vyoda paid no attention to that though. As he went towards the second wave of ships, his azure eyes looked towards them with little to no emotion whatsoever. The shinobis on the other hand were frightened to their very core to see countless of their ships were decimated by one man with one slash. What is he? One of the Kumo ninja said as his commander stepped towards the edge of the ship. It matters not what he is. He must be taken down. As the commander of the 2nd Battalion, I order a full offensive attack. The shinobis leaped off the ship and dashed right towards Naruto. Hundreds leaped off the ship and ran his way. He raised the eyebrow as they went through hand signs. Lightning release. Jien as he shot a bolt of lightning towards Naruto. Earth style. As Stone Kunoichi said as a massive dragon rose up and shot towards Naruto. Water style, Akira Shinobi says he shot water from his mouth. It picked up in strength and velocity as it flashed past the ocean right towards the blonde. If this is all you can do, then I'm surely disappointed, said Naruto. He raised his hand towards the 3 incoming attacks. Bakudo number 8. Sake, said Naruto. Boom! The shinobis in front of him were hit with their own attacks. It happened so fast. The moment he said those words, a strange blue orb appeared, and it reflected the attack. It almost seemed to strengthen them, and it ricocheted and came back towards them with such velocity. Their bodies were blown apart. Some of them were lucky enough to jump away, but the ones that did not, well, they were eviscerated. What was that? One of them asked, still in shock as it was just so fast. He then froze. He felt chill run down his spine. He then turned as Naruto stood right beside him. He dropped to his knees, not just him though. Countless of them dropped to their knees. A red glow started to surround Naruto's body. There is no time for a second guessing in war, boy. Now perish from my sight. He then turned and swung his blade. The shinobi eyes went wide as he was enveloped, along with countless others, in a massive stream of flames. Their bodies were eviscerated so quickly. As Naruto noticed two people at the back, from the other row of ships, Naruto tilted his body to the side as someone whipped past him. The person came to a stop. "Well, you're very fast to dodge me." As two men appeared, they were stronger than the other ones. One of them had a very tall, dark-skinned, muscular build. He had a black bandana covering the top of his hair, his blonde hair, and a small beard to match. A rope tied around his waist. The second man was tied in pure bandages. His eyes were the only thing visible. There were two swords strapped to his back, and the hidden stone crest on his chest. He wore no shoes. His feet were also bandaged as well. As Naruto looked at the both of them, yes, they were a lot stronger than the others. As the one with the bandage spoke, "It seems that we were misinformed, Raikage-san." The man called Raikage Scarf. As Naruto watched as lightning start to pick up all over his body. That we would have, it seems. Either we were tricked, or that old monkey didn't know that there would be a man of this power amongst Uzu. As Naruto kept their words, what they just said, in the back of his mind. "Are you two quite done?" he said. They both went quiet. "Good. We're in a war. And words mean nothing on the battlefield except for the names of those who I deem suited to at least meet me in combat. So tell me, young warriors, what are your names?" "Very well. I am the third Raikage Z," the dark-skinned man said, as lightning erupted all over him. His hair started to spike upwards. "And I am the second Tijikage, Mew," as a transparent white started to glow around Mew's hand. "Good," said Naruto. He then vanished. The two Kage eyes went wide. "What the?" Z shouted. But guys, it'll be instant right here. If you want to see the next person do, like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on the bell notification to stay posted. Remember, share to all of your friends in social media platform. And also guys, go ahead and stay tuned for the rest of the what ifs coming your way over Anime King and Anime King 3. I mean Anime King 2 and Anime King 3, guys, yes. I indeed have 3 channels. If you're new, yeah, I indeed have 3, guys. 3 channels that I post what if on every single day for you guys to enjoy. Yes, you have not misheard that. Every single day. So go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and your support. And yeah, without further ado, what do you say we get the hell out of here? See you guys soon. Peace.